Hi guys, Mrs. Sullivan here. It is Friday, November 20th, and wish I could be at school today, but I am still out, and I miss your faces, and hopefully I will get to see you guys all on the Google Meet starting next Monday. So here we go. First thing up today, make sure you get your warm-up finished. So the warm-up for today asks you, why do we not know much about the Harappans of the Indus River Valley? One of the things that you could mention, and the big thing is we don't know a lot about them for two different reasons. One of them is because we cannot read their writing. They had a writing system, they wrote things down, but no one has been able to decipher it. So we only know what we can kind of get out of the ground, per se. Another reason is that a lot of civilization has been built on top of their civilization. So it's so far down, they just can't keep on digging. It's too far down. They're afraid of destruction of what they have found if they continue to dig. So they just have not got down to all of the civilization yet and haven't been able to see it all. So any one of those answers is perfectly fine. Now, here's what we are doing today. We're still identifying facts about the Harappans and recognizing what makes them a civilization. How we are doing that, you're going to listen and watch this screencastify over the Harappans. While you're doing that, you're going to check and fill out your graphic organizer over the Indus River Valley civilization. And you have a short success check at the end. You'll know you've got it when your graphic organizer is complete. And on the success check, you can at least give the names of the major cities of the Harappans, and you can describe how those cities of the Harappans were organized. So first thing first, the biggest thing is the graphic organizer from yesterday. You're going to want to get that out. And if you don't have it, you need to kind of sit here and pause this for a second and on a piece of paper, write all this down so that you can kind of make sure you have what you need to have to be successful for today's lesson and on that success check at the end. So as we go through, we're going to kind of go over what you should have in those blanks. There's other things besides what I'll go over, but you want to make sure you have what I give you and what is listed on the screen. So when we talk about the Indus River Valley, we are talking about all of this green area highlighted on this map, and you've got the Indus River flowing through here. So today it would be northwest Pakistan, kind of over here, and northwest India over here, and actually what would be West Pakistan over here on this side a little bit. So you have the Indus River flowing through here, and that was the major water source. A couple of the major cities, the first one and how they decided to name the people are Harappa. And if you look at this picture, this is where they have started to kind of dig up parts of that civilization. Some other pictures of things that they have dug up that would have been for Harappa. You had, a walkway through here, and these would have been different buildings and such. This, something that they had were actual like fireplaces and kilns that they would have had available for the people there. Kind of same thing right here, kind of like a pit, fire pit. And then what we'll mention here in just a little bit as you look up the citadel that the reading talked about. There are better pictures here coming up. Another major city was Mohenjo-Daro. That's one thing that the Harappans were very well known for. What I have there is well-planned cities. And you can put it under architecture. You can put it under the cities. Either place, it doesn't really matter. but we can tell they're very well planned out because of just the design in general. So if you think a lot about how our cities are built now, where we have like a grid almost, where you have your north-south streets and your east-west streets, that's how a lot of the Harappan civilization cities were laid out. Kind of the first time we've seen it like this. And it kind of leads to the idea of how we plan cities out. So just very well planned in kind of like the grid system and the way they built the cities. And then here's another picture of what those citadels looked like. For the government, we assume, because of the way the cities were laid out, that there was some kind of authority there. And that is, again, just an assumption. Okay? Just because we can't read their writing, we don't have tons of, things that tell us about them. So the fact that this was there, would call it a citadel. We don't know what they would have called it. But the fact that there is kind of that large building in that area tells us that there was, some kind of authority. It could have been religious. It could have been government. We don't know. But the fact that it exists tells us that something was there. So kind of, again, we have signs that there was some kind of government. Sorry. For architecture, again, what I mentioned before, you could put something about how they used a grid system for their cities. And then another thing, if you were reading, it talked about the Great Bath. So all of their cities, especially in Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, had what we call the Great Bath, and looked like what they've even dug up still looks like the picture on the left. So a big kind of area where you would have stepped down and there was seats and things like that. Well, they believe that these things would have looked very similar to what you have on the right. And the Great Bath would have been more of a congregating area. But yes, people would have got in the water and actually just kind of sat there and had conversation. So almost think about like a public hot tub or a public pool or something like that, where they go to kind of gossip and talk and have meetings sometimes. That's what they believe this would have existed. So kind of a great piece of architecture for that time period. And no, they call it the Great Bath, but it wouldn't have been like, hey, I'm going to take my shampoo and my soap and all of that kind of stuff. That would not have happened. But the Romans and had things like this too. So another big piece of architecture, and this is where we think they were a very advanced civilization, is they had a type of sewer system. And here's some examples of it. So if you can see this right here, kind of act like a drain. Same thing with this right here. And then this would have came out of people's homes. So they actually, this would be the only ancient civilization where they would have had something like this. So it went through the entire city. It looks like that each home had some sort of sewer system attached to it. So people actually probably had kind of like their own bathroom and a restroom, and they had a system where they would have been able to get rid of that waste. Now, would possibly that waste have went through here? Possibly, yes. But to have that ability in your own homes back then was an amazing feat. And this is kind of one of the big finds of the Harappan and the Indus River Valley civilization, is that it looks like they were advanced enough to come up with this plan and this idea to have something like this, which was just outstanding. For the arts, so some of the things we had found, so it talked about seals. So these are the seals that it's mentioning. They would have been used as, could have been used in trade. They would have been used to have a specific person attached to one of them. It would have kind of, to make a deal, attach it to kind of the bottom of a piece of paper or something. You have statues. So they did have some kind of person that would do some kind of art and crafts kind of idea. And they also, we have found games. So we feel like they kind of had courtyards where they believe that people would have, kind of families would have got together to play games. And some of the games that we've seen look like the ones on the right here. And these are the kind of the first people that we believe came up with these types of games. So this is the oldest set of dice ever found, was in the Indus River Valley civilization. And you also have like some kind of something similar to chess that was found there also. So they could have very well been the people to come up with the idea of those two things. And as I mentioned, a writing system. They had one. It's pictured here. No one can read it, though. We haven't been able to decipher it. It's the reason why we don't have tons of information about the Harappans. Basically, what I'm showing you, what was in the reading, and, a tiny bit else, that's about all we know about them. So, no writing system. We can't decipher it. If someone could actually decipher this, it would be a huge find in history. I don't know why that went twice. Now, these last two you don't have. It didn't talk about them in the writing, so you just want to copy down what's on there, and you can pause this if you need to. So for religion, it's kind of two theories there. So one of the theories is just that they were polytheistic because there are depictions and pictures of goddesses that they have found. But we don't know anything about them again because we can't read their writing. Another theory is that the Aryans eventually came over to this area and brought with them their religion, which would kind of lead into what today is Hinduism. So something very similar to that, which also would have been polytheistic in nature. And social classes. So again, it's kind of really hard to say because we can't read their writing, but they think that their social classes would have been based off of the natural kind of social class pyramid. But they believed that priests were the highest power. And what they're going on is that theory that this Aryan civilization from the Middle East came over and attached itself to this civilization. But we don't really know before that Aryan group of people would have came over what things would have been like. So again, social classes, it's an assumption, but we don't really know how things were set up. And the big question is what happened to them? We don't really know. We've got these cities, but we have no idea why people weren't living there and what happened to them. So that's a mystery that you'll get to solve and you'll try to figure out next week. So what you're going to do now is take that graphic organizer and you have a success check. And then once you're done with the success check, you're done with social studies today. So sorry I haven't been there all week. Hopefully we all survived just fine. And I will see you guys in the Google Meets on Monday. Hope you have a great weekend. Goodbye.